Hey everybody, Taz from Critical Thinking Anarchist here. So I was checking out the news a little bit over the weekend and caught a few different things that I wanted to bring to light. The first one was from July 5th and saying the WHO, World Health Organization, changed its coronavirus timeline to say it got its first report about the virus on the internet, not from Chinese authorities. The World Health Organization changed its coronavirus timeline to say that its China office first found out about the novel coronavirus from local reports on the viral pneumonia rather than from Chinese officials. The revision, published June 29th, comes as multiple reports found that China withheld key information about the coronavirus outbreak from the public and the WHO for several days. For months, China has been accused of covering up its knowledge of the coronavirus in its early days and the WHO of helping it to do so. Both sides have repeatedly refuted these accusations. So apparently now this is the World Health Organization saying, nope, we knew about it. It's just that we found out from the internet and we had to decipher it, and we didn't get it from Chinese officials. They originally thought it was the pneumonia at first. Oh, okay. Yeah, that's not better that you didn't know. So now you're saying that you didn't know what it was. You didn't know that it was a pandemic. You didn't know that this was something to be worried about. You got some random story off the internet, and that's what started breaking you into going, oh, hey, maybe we should check this out. So the WHO requested, God, and I wish it was the real WHO with Roger Daltrey, requested further information about the reports from China over the next 2 days on January 1st and January 2nd, 2020, but only got a response on January 3rd. In a previous chronology published in April, the WHO said that it found out about the cases from the Wuhan Municipal Health Commission without specifying where or how it was notified. Because if anyone found out that they found out from a random freaking story on the internet, that they'd be wondering why they took it seriously, as rightfully you should. So the revised chronology now shows that WHO's China office, not Chinese authorities, had first raised the alert. So Chinese authorities didn't tell the WHO. So now the WHO is trying to separate itself from Chinese authorities because they don't want to be associated in case those authorities were actually trying to cover it up. Whether they were or not, who knows, who cares at this point. Now the WHO is in trouble about this BS. World Health Organization Emergencies Director Michael Ryan told reporters on Friday that countries have 48 hours to verify an event and tell the WHO about it. Well, let's see. They requested information on January 1st and January 2nd and got the information on January 3rd. That's 24 to 48 hours, wouldn't you say? So China did their job on that part, I guess. In a Sunday statement to Business Insider, a WHO spokesperson said the new timeline gives more details. Well, it gives details, not more details. It didn't have any details. That was the problem. On WHO's initial contact with China and illustrates the range of WHO's work to stop transmission and save lives. No, it really didn't, because they still didn't do anything about it. The spokesperson did not explain why the WHO took months to clarify how it found out about the outbreak. Well, it took months to find out about the outbreak, or to clarify how it found out about the outbreak, because, again, then people would sit there going, then why didn't you do anything about it? Oh, because it was a story on the internet and not anything from Chinese authorities. So that's why the WHO didn't do anything about it, because they found out on the internet and said, wonder what this is. Probably nothing. I guess we should ask China to go, hey, what's going on with this new pneumonia thing over there? China has been accused of covering up the coronavirus in its early days, suppressing key information to its citizens and the WHO. Well, which is it? Are they suppressing key information to its citizens and the WHO, or is the WHO helping them cover it up? The Associated Press reported last month that China delayed the release of critical information about the outbreak to the public and the WHO for several days and waited more than a week to release the virus's genome, actions that likely delayed the development of vaccines, drugs, and diagnostic tests. While a week is important, it's not that important. Waited more than a week. So even if it waited 8 days, that's not much of a delay. That would be like if they found out on June 30th and released it today. The AP also reported in April that top Chinese leaders had known for 6 days in January that the coronavirus could become a deadly pandemic, but told the world the virus posed a low risk to people and who could not be transmitted between humans. At the same time, the WHO, which relies on countries to provide their own data, took China at its word and offered the same advice, which has since proven to be wrong. Yeah, I remember that. I remember our president trying to sever travel to and from China, and Chinese officials getting all pissed off, and several politicians and several celebrities and lots of people on social media getting pissed off about that. And then 2 months later, when we figured out it was a freaking pandemic, then they said, oh, why didn't Trump do more? Well, he tried, and he was stopped at every face. The WHO has also been accused of helping China cover up the outbreak in its early days. President Donald Trump, who repeatedly highlighted the allegations, has since withdrawn $400 million of U.S. funding into the WHO and threatened to sever ties to the agency. China, meanwhile, has pledged billions of dollars in additional funds to the agency. Oh, interesting. So what you're saying is that the World Health Organization is funded by countries and has its allegiances to whoever pays its bills. Oh, okay. So they're not to be trusted, in other words, because they're essentially a business. Conducting independent research in China is notoriously difficult, especially if it could embarrass the ruling Communist Party. Teams probing Chinese human rights accusations have previously found themselves on heavily choreographed and chaperoned tours and forbidden to carry out investigations. Duh. In response to a request for further information, the WHO spokesperson cited a July 1st statement from Ryan, the emergencies director, saying that the team will consist of 2 experts from WHO headquarters, one an expert on animal health and an epidemiologist with experience in epidemiological investigations. They will set the scope of the study, the terms of reference, and the program of work. Fantastic. A 2-person team to investigate the entire country of China. Yeah, that should do a lot of nothing. But again, it's just going to show that the World Health Organization is bought and paid for and has been for a very long time. It's whoever's giving the money, and that's it. You can't really trust anything they say. To go on to another note, unfortunately, a former National Guard colonel apologized but will keep her professor job after saying sexual harassment is the price of admission for women in the military. Now, I've got kind of an issue with higher-ups in the National Guard. Minnesota's governor, Tim Walz, is a former National Guardsman. He helped protect one of his buddies who got full pension and everything else after doing a lot of stuff and covering it up. This is now another one who is a lecturer at the University of Wisconsin-Milwaukee and a retired member of the Wisconsin Air Guard, apologized for her comments on the Facebook group on a news article about murdered U.S. Army soldier Vanessa Guillen. Scholler wrote that the sexual harassment is the price of admission for women in the good old boy club, and if you're going to cry like a snowflake about it, you're going to pay the price. Now, this is the weird part. Because she's a lecturer at University of Wisconsin. She's a former guardsman. And her comments, the way she states the comments is like a far right-wing person. Yet everything she does is like a far lefty. And so it's kind of confusing on this one. A petition to remove Scholler as a lecturer from UWM has amassed more than 135,000 signatures, but the university said legal reasons concerning her right to freedom of speech won't let it fire her. Okay, first of all, freedom of speech is not freedom of consequences. We've seen this many times in many places. However, and this is something that really needs to be looked at when it comes to professors especially. Not so much teachers. Most teachers don't have some sort of tenure, but for whatever reason, in public schools, professors get tenure. And this tenure is like unbreakable. Short of straight up murdering people, and even then, I'm not entirely sure. I mean, I've known of professors to do some incredibly horrible things, mostly by hearsay, so obviously I can't confirm the stories I've heard from other students and how much of it is just students not liking their professors. But knowing some of the professors, I wouldn't put it past them. Most of it is sexual allegations. But I've known several professors who essentially get away with everything because they have tenure. The thing you go for is tenure. And like I said, tenure is this like weird unbreakable contract when you become a professor. And every time you re-up your tenure, you get, I believe it actually is a 10-year clause, which is why it's called tenure, but I could be wrong. I haven't done the investigation on that. But it's this weird thing where you can do anything. You get away with anything, and nobody can touch you. And it has nothing to do with freedom of speech. It's not legal reasons concerning her right to freedom of speech. It's because of her tenure, because of her contract with the university, they can't fire her. Now, what will likely happen is she will never get a new contract with the University of Wisconsin ever again, and will likely be blackballed within the state of Wisconsin from the university system. But until that contract is up, they have no recourse. So the best thing people can do is not take her classes. If you're in her classes, leave them, drop them. So a college professor and retired colonel in the Wisconsin Air National Guard apologized but will keep her job after her comments in a private Facebook group Friday about sexual harassment allegations leveled by a since murdered soldier were made public and circulated on social media. Now, I'm not much, I'm also one of these people that's not much one on cancel culture. I'm not big on the whole cancel culture thing, but then again, when you start talking professors, I kind of go the other way on that one because, again, there are a lot of professors and lecturers who I don't like the professor system. I don't like the lecturer system because they get paid to tell you what to do. You pay them to tell you what to do. Is this not ridiculous? When you go to public school, when you go to primary school or grade school, I guess we'll call it. When you're in kindergarten through 12th grade, you are taught, sometimes not very well, but you are taught by teachers. Now, when you leave primary school, so say you go to secondary school, depending on what you go to, if you go to like a community college, you are likely getting a teacher in that case. Most of the time in community colleges, they are people who are in the industry who have a teaching license or are teachers who are working on becoming professors because there's way more money in being a professor. So they're in this position and they still want to teach people. They're usually not gatekeepers at this point. Most of the professors that I've ever had see themselves as gatekeepers. They see themselves as the people standing between you and the private sector. And you pay them for this. And I left college for a little bit kind of thinking that too. I went back, I finished it, and that was mostly because I made a promise that I was going to complete college. And I've barely used any of my college education. But they seriously see themselves, a lot of these people see themselves as the gatekeepers. They want to prevent you from passing their classes. It's like, I'm paying you to teach me. I'm not paying you to have a teacher's assistant. I'm not paying you so that you can tell me why I'm an idiot. I am paying you to tell me what to do correctly so that I can move on, so that I can get a better job, so that I can get a job in the field that I'm studying for. Like, I get that I have to have my own responsibility in this, but I'm paying you to help me, not to tell me that I'm not good enough. And that's what these people do. And this woman screams of this. And so in this particular Facebook group that she was in, she goes, content, and I'm a big context matters person, so unfortunately we don't get to see the entire thing. But whatever it was, she goes, "You guys are kidding, right?" She wrote in comments of a news article about Guillen's murder in a private Facebook group for veterans. "Sexual harassment is the price of admission for women who into the good old boy club. If you're going to cry like a snowflake about it, you're going to pay the price." Which, again, it's out of context, but at the same time, she basically said that Guillen cried about it and was murdered because of it. Now, my wife is a reservist. She has spent 6 years in the Army Reserves and has been deployed. She's not much older than Guillen. And I know I've only heard fractions of what's gone on. But of course, my wife is also kind of more of a one of the guys type of women. And most of the guys that she dealt with, she could probably kick their asses before they'd ever kick hers. I also have several friends and exes who've been in and around the military over the years. My one ex actually was sexually assaulted and harassed by her then boyfriend, by his Army buddies or Marine buddies. I'm not entirely sure which division he was in at this time anymore. But again, this is not something that should ever be okay. Like, I get that boys are going to be boys, guys are going to be guys, whatever, but that doesn't mean they get to just do what they want. They need to be held accountable. So if you got guys doing this type of thing and they're not being held accountable, then this is exactly what's going to happen. Someone's going to be assaulted, raped, murdered. It's because people aren't held accountable that this stuff happens. And for you to say, and for this woman to say, well, yeah, of course they're going to be like that. It's like, that's not right. That's not good enough. You're giving them a free pass. No one's crying like a snowflake because they're being hit on. It's not like it's not like it's just saying like, hey, baby, you're kind of cute. This is way, way beyond that. And she goes on to all this stuff. The message we receive from the culture is not only will you suffer from sexual harassment, if you squawk about it, you will suffer even more. She added, because it isn't just the sexual harassment, that's just the beginning. Then comes the agonizing decision about reporting or not reporting, the pressure applied by friends who know about it and only want to help, having to ultimately stand up to that culture of sexual harassment on your own. So you're saying that you're doing this completely on your own and that's a decision you have to make? No, that is not a decision you have to make on your own. But again, if you know anything about the military branches, like Scholler, who retired in 2017 after spending 23 years in the Air Force Reserves, and the Air National Guard. All right, well, I don't know about the Air National Guard, but the Air Force and Air Force Reserves, pretty much every other branch of the military makes fun of the Air Force. They are the joke of the military as far as military service goes. You know, they're the ones. I mean, if Scholler apparently didn't like what it was like in the Air Force. Now, granted, if she's talking about the Air Force and dealing with pilots, which the Air Force, oddly enough, doesn't have many pilots anymore. I mean, they didn't really have many pilots to begin with, but a lot of the flying is done by the Navy now, naval aviators. The Air Force is more about strategic command. They're more about officers and officers training, the people who are, you know, highly educated usually. So they don't really do a lot of groundwork. And I know that's kind of well, duh, it's Air Force. They don't do a lot of the fighting. They do a lot of the strategy for the fighting. They do a lot of the planning. They do a lot of the engineering and setup of things. But I mean, you've got everybody. I mean, even the Wisconsin National Guard is sitting there going, like, we really don't want to associate ourselves with you anymore. Because nobody wants to be associated with anyone who lets people get away with things. You know, especially when it comes to sexual harassment and misconduct. And it's ridiculous that she would say, oh, she's a snowflake for wanting to report it. Fuck you. Now, it does suck. Again, it does suck that, you know, I can't. What she should be doing at this point is taking her salary and putting it towards Specialist Guillen's family. You know, she should be saying, I mean, she should be stepping down on her own and leaving University of Wisconsin, because she is going to be just berated for the next year. She's going to be torn down. So it'd be much, much smarter for herself to leave. But there is that selfish side of, hey, it's a paycheck. So if I don't have any students, I'm not going to get paid. Fantastic. But I'm going to say it again. Anybody who this gets out to, all 5 of you, all 2 of you, who go to University of Wisconsin in the area, in Milwaukee, don't take her class. Encourage other people not to take the class. If anybody signed up for it, drop out. If you find out she's going to be lecturing in your class, walk out. Don't engage her. Don't give her the time of day. Nothing. Just get out of it. The best thing you can do is vote with your pocketbooks. The best thing you can do is tell University of Wisconsin no. Not berate them, not berate her, not attack her, not send threats to her. Just vote with your wallets and leave. If you really want to, you could do that with the entire University of Wisconsin. You know, I mean, you just say, hey, we're not going to be going to your school anymore while this person's employed. And that would really hurt them. But then again, you're hurting a lot of innocent people in that particular instance, because there's a lot of good professors in the University of Wisconsin school system. You know, and you're hurting yourselves in that case as well. You do want to try and get these jobs. You do want to try and get this education. But you don't need it from her. Anyway, that's all I got. Share your thoughts in the comments below. Thanks for listening. Make sure you like, share, and subscribe, and I will talk to you later.